talked about this morning and we'll look at a series of 1 Corinthians 13 in a more excellent way. That excellent way being the greatest gift, the gift of love. And what love is, and what love does not do, and what love does do. And the momentary gifts that we find in love, the things that have already passed away, that we find in 1 Corinthians 13. Kind of branching off that a little bit, tonight's lesson deals with a great example of this better love that we find here in Matthew chapter 18. So there was a husband, I know this is a stretch, folks, a husband that did something wrong to his wife. Imagine that. I know it's a stretch. He did something wrong, and obviously she was upset, she was angry, so he, sorry, forgive me, really messed up, the whole speech. Like I know that speech very well. Anyways, he gave the speech, and he meant, and she said, obviously I do forgive you. But as time went on, he would bring it up. I need you to remember when you did this. After a certain amount of time, he just said, listen, honey, why are you still bringing something up when you forgive? And her response was simple. She says, I don't want you to forget that I have forgiven you. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4, I love the NIV reading of this. It says, love keeps no records of wrongs. That's a better love, isn't it? What is forgiveness? Forgiveness, the best, greatest example is shown by Jesus on the cross. In fact, Jesus demonstrated what forgiveness is and what it's about while he was on the cross. In Luke chapter 23, one of the sayings of Jesus was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I think Jesus shows us that sometimes saying forgiveness is very difficult. I can't imagine. He's dying, he's suffering, he's in excruciating pain. He's hearing insults and people cursing him. I mean, if there's a time not to forgive, it would be that time, wouldn't it? But he demonstrates, since he preached it, he followed what he preached by forgiving them, even though once they did not ask for forgiveness. They were not repenting. They were not, saying, please forgive us of our sins. He forgave them anyway. Jesus also preached on forgiveness. Matthew chapter 6, in the Sermon on the Mount, the Lord was very clear about this. Forgive someone of their trespasses, your heavenly Father will forgive you. If, it's a conditional statement, if you do this will be done to you. But if you do not forgive people of someone of their trespasses, your heavenly Father will not forgive you. I mean, it's pretty simple. I don't know how much simpler it could be. If you forgive, you're forgiven. If you don't forgive, you're not forgiven. And we all are in need of forgiveness. I don't know if a person is not. And so as we find in Matthew chapter 8 was read for us, Peter kind of sets the stage for the story that Jesus conveys. Jesus teaches him a story, and the point at the end. In your heart, you must forgive. At the very end of that story of this great parable. But like any stories that Jesus told, a lot of times they were set up by a question, by a statement, by an event. And this was set up by Peter's question, Lord, how often shall I forgive my brother? Up to 7 times. Look very carefully at that question. What I find interesting is this. He doesn't say if my brother or sister sins against me. You ever notice that? Lord, if my brother or sister forgives me, should I forgive them up to 7 times? When they've sinned against me, how often should I forgive up to 7 times? Obviously, Peter is fully aware, especially at this time in life, that people are going to sin against you. They're going to do things. You're going to Commit sins, just as he has committed sins, and there's going to be a need of forgiveness. So he's asking Christ, obviously when this happens, should it be at this number? Now it's interesting, the idea of 7 times. Maybe Peter, my theory was going the extra mile because the Jewish teaching was forgive someone up to 3 times. The reasoning for that comes from the book of Amos. If you look at Amos chapter 1 and 2, you'll find repeated over and over 3 transgressions, and in the 4th transgression, I will not forgive. The Lord saying. So the idea that the Lord not forgiving up to 3 times when it came to the 4th transgression, not willing to forgive, and so that, like any Jewish tradition that's over time branched out, the idea of maybe up to 3 times you forgive someone. So Peter may be a little proud of himself, I think, and maybe going a little bit further, up to 7 times. That should be sufficient, right? That should take care of whatever the situation is. Now notice what Jesus says in response. I do not say to you up to 7 times, but 70 times 7. He's not telling us a specific number here. This is not to multiply 70 times 7, or whatever number you get, and that's how many you've got to keep up in mind. We like to deal with numbers. We do. We like to understand that when it comes to something, it's this many times, or it's done this specific way, and we keep up with that. And maybe whether we admit it or not, we sometimes like to keep score with things. We like to keep up with things, keep an account of what people have said and what they've done. And so if I can have this certain magical number that I can hold on to, then that's going to be what I need to do. But that's not what Jesus is saying. He's not saying that you need to do it this many times, and after that person has exceeded all forgiveness on your part, and they will never be forgiven. The idea is that it's so great and so big that obviously the emphasis is on loving the person up to forgive them, to release them, and more importantly, to release yourself. To not keep it within you, not hold on to it, because like anything that we hold on to, it can become toxic spiritually and do us harm. So the approach is when the offender comes and does something, it's not about counting, it's not about the number of times, it's about being your willingness to love that person with the better love which God has provided for us to forgive. Now sometimes we see snippets of that. A couple years ago, maybe last year, time escaped me of that, I think it was 2 years ago, the young man that goes into the African American congregation in South Carolina for a prayer meeting, stayed for the whole meeting, and at the very end, opens fire. The very next day, a person that lost a family member said to him, I forgive. And immediately just couldn't understand that. How is that possible? We don't understand that because it's of the world, but it's of God, it is something that's different. Notice this great parable that he gave. As was read to us, he said the kingdom of heaven is like this certain king, and wanted to settle his accounts with his servants. He has revealed that in the citizenship of this heavenly kingdom, that we are under the reign and the authority of obviously the reign of God and God's authority. So obviously the parable of this certain king naturally represents God, since it is only God who can call our attention to bring in all of the accounts. And we do know that we must stand and give an account. Romans 14, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10, of the things that we have done, whether good or bad. Who's going to call that? God is. Where we will have to give an account, whether good or bad. So the king wished to settle all the accounts with his servants. But one particular servant owed 10,000 talents. I really don't know how much that is. I do know this, what certain things cost in the Old Testament, talents-wise. I know the tabernacle, I believe, cost 29 talents. King David's solid gold crown was only 1 talent in cost. King Solomon, in the height of his glory, when he was very successful, when he was just bringing in a lot of money, at the height he was bringing in 666 talents a year. What's a talent? Verse 29, what's 666 to 10,000 talents? Nothing. The idea in what Jesus is saying is an exuberant amount that it's obviously something that this individual is unwilling to pay. In fact, he asks of him, since he does not have the money or the assets to pay that, and you need to bring yourself, your family, and your possessions, and that will be his payment to be sold, so that I can recoup some of my money. But what did the servant do? Look at verse 26. He asked for compassion, he begged, he asked for patience. Who of us in anything in our world today can imagine knowing the IRS, knowing somebody in this great big amount and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, there's no way I can pay this," and all of a sudden they release us of that debt. That's exactly what the king does. He released him and forgave him. In that order, he released and forgave him. Did you show compassion? It wasn't because he was forced to do that. It wasn't because he just, he had a plan of action. Okay, I'm going to forgive you, but I want you to follow this plan. You can pay me this amount every month until the rest of your life. He didn't do anything. He forgave of this tremendous amount of debt. As we look and see in the story, the servant obviously received a tremendous gift, a gracious gift. It was the love of God that forgave him, the love of the king, and the love of humanity that was willing to do that. Now, when God's loving forgiveness happens, it doesn't affect us at all. If it doesn't motivate us, it doesn't challenge us. You know what? In a greater sense has been done for us. If I'm not willing to do what is little for someone else, then we have a spiritual problem. As we unfortunately read the story, it's interesting, why would Jesus tell this portion of the story? Because he knows humanity. He knows us as people. What can be done for us, what we won't done for us, we may not want is something if we're on the receiving end, if we have received something. So he wants to stress it, and I think the second half is just as important as the first half, if not even more so, because what was forgiven with him, what was done for him, there was a servant that told him, oh, it wasn't even a drop in the bucket for what he owed the king. The compassion was shown to him, but was compassion shown? Did he express that same compassion to someone else? And we know the answer to that, he did not. Grabbed him by the throat, shook him, and put him into confinement because he did not have the money that he owed him. And even though it was a small amount, it was the principle not only not paying him, and he dealt with it very harshly. In the story, what Jesus says here, he tells us what goes around comes back around, because guess who finds out what the servant has done? It's a great little indication that all accounts will be brought forth to God, and there's not anything that we can hide, there's not anything that we can hide in the rug, just pretend like it's not there. He will bring to view everything. And so the king finds out, obviously, he's very angry. He's very upset with what the man had done, what was done to him. In fact, go back and look in your particular text here. Again, it's in Matthew chapter 18. In verses 33, he says, you should not also have compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you. What is done to you should be done to someone else. The master is angry and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay that it was due to him. But don't miss verse 35, because that's the point of this whole story, the point of his answer to Peter's question. My heavenly Father will also do to each of you what? Punish us. Condemn us. If we do not do what? Forgive the trespasses of your brother. Notice the location of forgiveness. In your heart. Jesus knows this. He knows the mask that we can present to ourselves. He knows the facade that we can have. On the surface, we can pretend like we're forgiven, but on the inside, we hold them accountable. We're still angry. We're still upset. We're still holding on to something. Let me tell you something. If that's us, we're not following that person. You've got to forgive in your heart what someone has done for you. We have to forgive. That brings a great question, doesn't it? What exactly is forgiveness all about? What is forgiveness? And is our love any different? Is our forgiveness any different? Best demonstrate forgiveness. This is a great way to do this. Say this is the sin of someone against me. If I forgive, I release myself. I'm no longer holding it because I realize it's not absent my mind, and I'm no longer holding on to it. Did you catch how the king forgave the servant? Oh, he released him. He no longer held him accountable. And he forgave him by releasing him. He was able to forgive. You know, sometimes people say they ask tough questions. These aren't tough questions. How do I know I've forgiven somebody? How can I know that? Sometimes I've heard people say, well, every time I see that person, I still hurt by that. Have I forgiven him if I still feel that? What if I feel negative thoughts? These are all not easy solutions. It's not really an easy thing to say. But let me tell you some things about what we can find from the story that I think is helpful for us as we think about it. A great example of showing a better love is the willingness to forgive for the sake of someone else, and more importantly, for the sake of us. As was said by Jesus, if we don't do that in our hearts, what will transpire from them? First little point of nugget to think about is this. We need to recognize what our motive for forgiveness should be. You know, and we rate some things. You know, someone's lying is one thing, someone's been indulging in something else, someone doing something more bigger than that. You know, it's have weight, and sin carries some weight with us as people. You know, sin is sin, and yet there's some consequences that are bigger. What should we recognize for our motives for forgiveness? Why do you forgive? Think about your life. Someone has done wrong to you and you've forgiven them. Why did you forgive them? Was it because you love for them? Was it because you wanted what's best for them? Or did you ever think in your mind when you forgave that person what God has done to you? That's exactly what the king was trying to tell the servant why he was so upset. Have you forgotten just what has been done to you? What I've shown you, what have I done for you, and yet you're so quick to go against that and not take that in and not be appreciative of that, to where you just condemn someone else with a smaller amount. I wonder if we're like that as people, that if our motives are in the wrong place, the reason why we forgive is because that person is asking for forgiveness. What if that person doesn't ask for forgiveness? They didn't ask for forgiveness when Jesus was on the cross. They didn't say, Lord, please forgive us. He still forgave them. He still forgave them. It's our motives for forgiving. It's not when someone asks, I'm sorry. It is is it for the sake of what God has done for me? If we can remember Matthew 6, 18 and 19, if we can remember what Jesus says in that Sermon on the Mount, that we forgive people of their trespasses, and God will forgive us. And if we don't do that, God's not going to forgive us. A lot of times I think in our motives for forgiving what it should be that we understand a lot of what forgiveness is about is not the person that's offended us, it's about us as people. Because what happens when we hold things and keep them in, it's not good for us. It's not good for the spirit, it's not good for the soul. God understands that and knows that. He's provided access to where we're able to forgive as well, as God has forgiven us. So our motives is everything. I think Peter's accurate in that. When my brother sins against me, when God's people do things that offends me, when I'm disappointed by someone, it's not it. If you're in church long enough, you know we're imperfect. We're going to do things that are not right. Sometimes we have the capacity within ourselves to forgive, to let it go, to release ourselves from it, if it involves us, obviously. The second thing I think is practical from this is that we should understand what forgiveness is. I don't think, this is my opinion, I don't think forgiveness is something that you can do just right here, right now, in this moment. I don't think that's possible. I think for us as people, it's a process. It's a process for me to say, I forgive you. And even though I've forgiven you, I still have the pain, I still have the hurt, but over time, I find less and less of that because of the releasing of that. It's like, in many ways, to me, I think it's grief. You can't just grieve in 3 days and expect to be over something. Everybody's different. Everybody grieves differently. Their process of time is different. And there's no window in forgiveness where God says, okay, I'm going to give you 7 days to get over forgiving somebody, and then you got to move on with your life. There's nothing in that. But we could still forgive somebody, and it could still be what we've done is what God has called us to do, and still feel the pain, and still feel the hurt, and still feel the things that we're going through. We just think about this scenario. I could say I forgive you, and I could still feel in my heart, I'm just really upset with you. I just can't believe you did that. I'm so upset. I'm so angry. I want to forgive you because I know it's what God wants me to do, and that's how we feel at the beginning. And the next phase we go into is, you know what? I don't feel as mad as I once did about it. I don't feel as angry. To where we eventually get to the point to where, you know what? It's forgiven and I've moved on. I think we must understand that in forgiving someone, as God has called us to do, that it takes some time, it takes a process on our part, it takes commitment on our part to not consciously try to bring up something or hold something against somebody. Because if we have forgiven somebody, just as we see in the story of what's forgiven to him, he didn't have the right, nor was he rewarded for holding something against somebody else. If the king has forgiven him, as the king did, it was his job to show the same to someone else. And I think that applies to all of us. There's no one in this audience who can stand up and say, I have not been forgiven by God, especially if we're a Christian. Not one. There's no one in this room that can stand up and say, I have not received God's forgiveness. And so, like in the story, we've been forgiven of something that is worthy of death, that is worthy of punishment, that is worthy of hell. Praise be to God for Jesus Christ for what He has done for us. Now, what are we going to do with that forgiveness? What are we going to do with what God has done for us? That's where, and that's the point tonight, that's where the better love comes in. A better love shows and demonstrates an example that I'm not going to hold anything. Whether they forgive me or not, I'm not going to hold it. I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm going to release myself, but I'm going to forgive. But I want you to understand this as well, the third point. What forgiveness is not. It's not excusing wrongdoing. That's not what forgiveness is. Jesus says in Luke chapter 17, verse 3, if your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. We're not to pretend like something didn't happen. Don't misunderstand me. When I'm saying forgiving somebody, it's excusing it. That's not what it means. We acknowledge what has happened, so therefore forgiveness is offered. We're not avoiding it. We're not pretending like it didn't happen, or something that existed or didn't exist, rather. And so we understand that what forgiveness is not. It is something has been done, and something that needs to be done in response to that is to ask for forgiveness. But let's be honest, we live in a culture and time where especially see in the news, people not willing to do, if they made a mistake and been caught, they'll try to get their way out of it. It wasn't me, it wasn't on me. What kind of example does that show the people that look at that? The forgiveness is, to me, and what I think in studying it, it's not the same as forgetting. You're not a computer. You can't wipe clean what's happened. You can't delete it. Okay, there's no way in our brains that when something's been done, you think about horrific things that have been done for people, and even though they've forgiven, of course they haven't forgotten. I think that's a misconception. I think it's a false idea. For you to forgive somebody, you have to forgive it. I still realize that sin, which represents that crumbled paper, is still there, but it's not a part of me. I'm not holding on to it. That's just the idea. I realize it's there, but I don't have it to where I can bring it up. That's exactly what we've been called to do as God's people. It's releasing the wrongdoer rather than holding on to it. And I think it requires God, the love of God. I think it requires that we need to do what God has done for us. And the lesson tonight is simply a branch off 1 Corinthians 13 of why it's the greatest gift, why it's a more excellent way, is because we're able to do something for someone which the only way you can describe it is it's an act of compassion. Ephesians 4 verse 32, Paul says, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ has forgiven. The King has forgiven your debt. You're going to go through life and encounter things, and things are going to happen to you. What are you going to do in return? How are you going to respond to that? Are you going to do to someone what's been done to you? We know the result of that. We know what happens. That's not good. Or are you going to show forgiveness? Folks, if we get down to it, shouldn't we be the most forgiving people? Not that we tolerate sin, not we excuse sin, no, but we're willing to forgive it. We're not willing to hold on to something. I would expect the world to do that because they don't know the love of God like we do. But if we are the Lord's church and we represent God's love and we're a demonstration of God, and as Russ prayed, we are a light in this community, we are a beacon for the world, and we should be an example of forgiveness. Be kind to one another. Tender-hearted. Forgive each other as God in Christ has forgiven. If you ever struggle with forgiveness or you feel like the act is just unforgiven, just look at yourself in comparison with God and what God has done for you. Have you offended God? Yes, check. I have done that. Have you fallen short of His glory? Yes, I've done that. And yet He's still forgiven. We need to be an example of that. And if we can show that to others, to me, I think it shows to those outside in the world that feel like they cannot be forgiven. They feel like they've gone too far, that there's no way they can be forgiven. It shows them that there is hope. And we're able to do that. There are a lot of people out there that are living their lives that are down themselves because they feel like they've gone to a point that's past no return. And to me, the only point of past no return is if you're on your deathbed and you're about to breathe your last breath and it's too late to respond to the gospel. That's the point of no return. They don't know that. They don't know about God's forgiveness. They don't know about what God has done for them. But we do. We can be that light to them. We can be that truth to them. We have to demonstrate that to one another. We have to demonstrate that to wherever we encounter them. We have to be willing to forgive and let go and move forward. That's what God has called us to do. The invitation song has been selected. We're going to stand and sing. If we can help assist you. If you need forgiveness, guess what's going to happen? You can come down this aisle, you can sit down there, and you can, in your heart, wanting to repent, God is willing to forgive. If it's not something of a public nature, but of a private nature, you can go home and pray to God and He will forgive. Serve a great God. We serve a just God. We serve a holy God, so it's very careful. We've got to be careful. It's not a pass to do anything and everything. There are consequences. But He will forgive. And that came to the greatest act of forgiveness, in my opinion, that is Jesus Christ and what He demonstrated for us, what He did for our sake. He who knew no sin became sin for us so that we could be right. We can help putting on Christ in baptism, be dedicating your life, asking for forgiveness, and praying for you. Please do not feel any pressure because you're in a room of people that have been forgiven. You're in a room full of people that needed God's forgiveness. We can understand what you're going through. We can relate to that moment. We too have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God and needed God's forgiveness. We can help you with that. Please come. Together we all stand and sing.